Today we are going to discuss business studies, paper 2. So the paper was written yesterday afternoon. Okay, right. So now, grade 12s, if you still remember, I always tell you the first thing that you should always pay attention to before you can actually start your examination. You must go through the set of instructions and information given. Because the moment you go through the set of instructions and information given, then you will definitely score marks, and you will avoid the chances of being penalized unnecessarily. Okay, right. So now, if you still remember the structure of business studies paper, it has 3 sections, section A, section B, and section C. So of which section A is considered to be compulsory, and it carries 30 marks. So also we have section B. Under section B, you are actually given 3 questions, and the expectation is to answer 2 questions, of which 1 question carries 40 marks. So now under this section, you are going to work under 80 marks. So now the last section, we have section C, and then this section C consists of 2 questions, and the expectation is to choose only 1 question, and of which 1 question carries 40 marks. So now if you add the marks for section A and the marks for section B and the marks for section C, then they sum up to 150. Remember, section A we have 30 marks, section B we have 80 marks, and then section C we have 40 marks. Okay, right. So now grade 12 are one of the important what instructions and information is number 2, where you are expected to choose questions wisely in section B, and also you are advised to start each and every new question on a new page. Okay, right. So now let's check the first question under section A. And remember, grade 12, you should always bear in mind that section A is always compulsory. Okay, right. So now 1.1.1 reads as follows. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter. An example is given there inside the bracket where you have A to D next to the question numbers. Also, you are given the guidelines there, 1.1.1 to 1.1.5 in a given answer book. So a typical example as well is given where you actually shown how you must select the options of your choice. So now if you check, we have 1.1.6, and the appropriate option for this question is D. So now also grade 12, remember, I always advise you guys to apply elimination method. So now when you apply this elimination method, when you are approaching choice or multiple choice questions, you are grading the chances of survival or broader chances of survival for yourself. So now, okay, grade 12. So now you should go through all the set of options given, and then you create a picture from those given set of options. Don't just jump to the option that you think this one is appropriate. Why? Because most of these options, they are pretty close or similar to one another. So that is why you are always advised to apply this elimination strategy or technique. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.1. 1.1.1 reads as follows. Mantla applied the dash leadership theory when he encouraged his team to be creative when dealing with drastic changes in a dynamic work environment. Okay, right. So now, as I said earlier, that you should compare, or you should make sure that you match all what the given options. So now if we check here, the appropriate answer is going to be what is going to be C, because C is the one that allows for a dynamic or some changes. So that is why we're actually saying that transformational leadership theory will be the appropriate answer for this question. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.2. 1.1.2 reads as follows. The director of a dash company jointly and severally responsible for the debts of the business. So now this one is somehow sort of tricky because the option that is B, yes, it is the appropriate answer. But also, if you were having the partnership on the list of the options, so partnership was going to be the appropriate answer than personal liability. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.1.3. 1.1.3 reads as follows. The principal amount remains the same for the duration of the investment period when calculating dash yen. So now, remember here, the interest that you are going to pay towards, to pay attention towards is simple interest and compound interest. But now, simple interest, that's where now the principal amount appears almost under each and every period or duration. So it means the appropriate answer in this regard is going to be A. While this one of a compound for the second year, yes, the principal amount now is going to be combined with whatsoever interest for the first period. Okay, right, Kritovs. So now let's check 1.1.4. 1.1.4 reads as follows. Employees of Ntsago Trading used the internet facilities of the business after working hours without permission. So now this refers to dash as a type of unprofessional business practices. So now, since this Ntsago or this employees from this particular business, they're actually utilizing the company resources after working hours without being granted a consent to do so. So in that regard, it means that the appropriate answer is going to be D, of unauthorized use of work funds and resources. So now this is going to be our appropriate answer. Okay, right, Kritovs. So now let's check what the last question, which is 1.1.5. 1.1.5 reads as follows. Businesses develop counseling programs and train counselors as a strategy to deal with this as a socio-economic issue. So in this regard, the appropriate answer is going to be B. Okay, right, Kritovs. Now let's move on to the next question. Next question, we have 1.2. And then 1.2 reads as follows. Complete different statements by using the words provided in the list below. Write only words next to the question number. An example is given there as a guideline. 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in a provided answerable. So now, Kritovs, what I always advise you is to go through each and every concept inside that grade. Because now, the moment you go through each and every point inside the grid, that's when now you will be in the position to know which perfect option or which appropriate option you should always go for, or which appropriate concept you should always go for. So now let's check the first question, which is 1.2.1. It reads as follows. The average clause is applied when assets are dash to determine the amount that will be paid to the insured. If you still remember, the average clause caters for underinsured and overinsured. So, but the fact that this should be an amount to be paid to the insured, so that it means that this particular what clause it caters for what? It caters for underinsured. It means that now what the good or the business has been underinsured. So meaning here our appropriate answer is going to be what it's going to be, sorry, it's going to be underinsured. Underinsured. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. We have 1.2.2. The dash as a form of ownership has no legal personality, and it does lack continuity. So that is nothing but what we call partnership. Okay, right, Kritovs. Now let's move on to 1.2.3. Views Enterprises focuses on dash as a triple bottom line element by participating in projects aimed at uplifting the community. So it means that now this caters for social, because social is one of the bottom line elements. We have social, we have profit, as well as people. So now it means here we have what we have people as the appropriate answer. Okay, right, Kritovs. Let's move on to the next question. We have 1.2.4. So it reads as follows: a manager considers various alternatives before selecting the best one. So this is known as what we call decision making. This is decision making. Okay, right, Kritovs. So now Tim, the supervisor, is firm and assertive when dealing with an dash as a type of difficult personality. So now to deal with this assertive, in order for you to be assertive, so you can only be assertive when you open up, or also you try to be in a low profile. So that kind of personality, when you are dealing with it, is called what is called a complainer. To deal with a complainer, you shouldn't shout as well when you are dealing with complainer. Make sure that you always keep a low profile. Okay, right, Kritovs. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question, we have 1.3. So 1.3, it does read as follows: choose a description from column B. So that matches with a term, a concept in column A. So write only the letter A to J next to the question numbers. An example is given there, 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book provided. So a typical example is given there is 1.3.6, and the matching there or the option there is K. Okay, right. So now, Kritovs, in this regard, you are advised to always go through column A, create a picture. For that matter, create a bigger picture of the concept that you have learned. Also, remember, I always advise you not to rely on what educators lesson notes. Always make sure that you undertake further research after a lesson, so that you can actually broaden up or broaden out your understanding towards that particular concept. Okay, right. So now, if we check, we have bonus shares. So in most cases, bonus shares are issued as a compensation for unpaid dividends. So it means in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be D. So now we also have management. Remember, management is the process of planning, controlling, also leading the organizational resources so as to achieve or attain the expected or set goals or objectives. So now, it means in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be what is going to be E, where management use power because of their knowledge and skills. So it means here our appropriate answer is going to be E. Okay, right, Kritovs. Now let's move on to the next question. We have 1.3.3. 1.3.3 reads as follows: Delphi technique. So now this Delphi technique is where a problem is actually being solved after inviting the experts outside the business premises. So now it means here our appropriate answer is going to be F, where it says a group of experts solves problems without bringing them together. So it means in this regard, our appropriate answer is going to be F. Okay, right, Kritovs. Now let's check 1.3.4. It reads as follows: freedom of speech and expression. So most of the people, most of you guys in grade 12, you normally make a mistake when it comes to this right. Yes, this is one of the diversity rights. It does say that you have the freedom to say whatsoever you want to say, but it doesn't cater for swearing. It means you should you shouldn't swear at other people because you say that you have a freedom of speech and expression. Okay, right. So in this regard, this freedom of speech and expression promotes a platform for employees to raise their dissatisfaction without being victimized. So it means our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be B. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the last question, which is 1.3.5. 1.3.5, it does read as follows: shared values. So now when you talk of these shared values, we check where the team members respect the skills of other members, meaning our appropriate answer in this regard is going to be age. Okay. So now, grade 12, what I can actually advise you to do is that when you are dealing with this particular type or particular types of questions, where you're supposed to match the concept with the description. So it's not only the description that will actually be given to you. Sometimes you'll be given the characteristics, sometimes you'll be given the function, sometimes you'll be given the definition, sometimes you'll be given the discussion, sometimes you actually be given what the characteristics. So that is why you should understand the concept from A to Z or from in and out. Okay, right, grade 12. So now we are done with this section. And remember, in this section, the expectation is to maximize marks as much as you can. So we are expecting each and every candidate or each and every grade 12 learner to score on the marks, because this type of question, it is believed to be very easy to score everything. Okay, right. So now we are moving on to the next section, which is section B. So now in this section, as I did say earlier, that you are expected to select two questions, and then after selecting two questions, then you can make sure that the questions that you have selected, you understand them. Don't select questions because you only understand 4 marks questions or you only understand 6 marks question. Make sure that before you select, you check the marks that you are quite sure that you are going to get all of them. Unlike just going for a question because you only know 2 questions out of the whole question. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check question 2. And then under question 2, we have business ventures. So under business ventures, we have a different set of questions. So we are going to jump or land onto question 2.1. So question 2.1 reads as follows: list any 4 examples of non-verbal presentation. So the examples that we have, number 1, we do have what we call hand out. So now the second one that we have diagrams. You can do the presentation without even saying a word with the use of a diagram. And also you can just use a slide shows. So slide shows as well, when you use them, you can actually do your presentation without even uttering a mere word. And also we have what we call a flip chart. So a flip chart also can actually be used what is a non-verbal presentation. Okay, right. So now let's move on to what? Let's move on to this question, which is 2.2. So now 2.2, it does read as follows: outline the role of personal attitude in the successful leadership. So now, if you still remember grade 12, I told you that whenever you are dealing with each and every question, make sure that you digest it to an extent of understanding the requirements of that question, unlike just jumping onto question without digesting it. Because the moment you do that, now you see that your chances of survival are going to be very, very slim. Okay, right. So now we're saying that the question says the question says outline the role of personal attitude in successful leadership. So now the one of the roles is that the positive attitude releases leadership potential. The moment there is what we call exhibition of positive attitude at the workplace, that is going to what? That is going to automatically release leadership potential from a leader. Also, enthusiasm what actually produces confidence in a leader. So now we are saying that positive attitude release leadership potential. And also we said that enthusiasm produces confidence. Produces confidence in a leader. Okay, right, grade 12. Now let's move on to the next question. So now next question, we have 2.3, and 2.3 reads as follows. Bizana Sportswear, BS. Bizana Sportswear has retail outlets throughout the country. So the management of BS allows their employees to participate in a decision-making process. So now the question says, you must identify the leadership style applied by BS in the scenario above. So now let's check the leadership style that is actually being applied. So now BS allows the employees to participate. The fact that employees are actually being allowed to participate in a decision making, it means this leader is following what we call democratic leadership style. Democratic leadership style. Okay, right. So now let's check our 2.3.2. So our 2.3.2 reads as follows. Suggest situations in which leadership style identified in question 2.3.1 can be applied in the workplace. So in short, they want you to actually suggest situations in which the democratic leadership style can be applied in the workplace. So now we are saying that cooperation is needed between a leader and a team. Also, group members are eager to share their values. We are saying that group members are eager to share. They are eager to share their values. And also, we said that cooperation is needed between a leader and a team. Okay, right, grade 12. Now let's move on to the next question. So the next question reads as follows, which is 2.4. 2.4 reads as follows. Discuss the impact of government or RSA retail savings bond as a form of investment. So now, under this, interest can be received twice a year. Also, interest is usually higher than on fixed deposits. Also, under this retail bonds, what we can actually say, we can say that retail bonds are not freely transferable amongst the investors. We can't transfer them. So now here we're actually saying that our first answer is that interest can be received. Interest can be received twice a year. Twice a year. And also we said that interest is usually higher than on fixed deposits. And also we said that retail bonds Retail bonds are not freely transferable amongst investors. Okay, right, Kritos. So now let's move on to the next question. So now the next question that we have a 2.5. And this 2.5 reads as follows. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. We have Green Logistics, which is a GL. So now Green Logistics is in the process of investing their surplus funds. So they considered the investment period and possible risk in the different investment options. So now GL also identified venture capital as the best investment opportunity to expand their business. So name two vectors that GL considered when making an investment decision in the scenario above. So now what they checked the time period that they are going to get their returns, and also they check the chances of losing their money. So it means we have investment period, you have investment period, and a risk. You have investment period and a risk. Okay, right. So now let's check 2.5.2. Explain venture capital as a type of investment opportunity. So explain venture capital as a type of investment opportunity. So now let's check the marks, the allocation of marks. You have 4 marks. So it means that the expectation is to come up with 2 points, because you can't just come with 1 point when you have been allocated 2 marks. So that is why grade 12, it is always advisable to know this concept from A up to Z. So now when we talk of this venture capital, it means that venture capital, it actually means that provision for financing to start up small businesses or companies, and also investors believe they have a greater growth. Also, we check this financing comes in the form of private equity and as a form of expertise. So we are saying that provides financing to startups and small companies or companies that investors believe have greater growth. Okay, we are saying that provides financing to startups and small companies that investors believe do have a greater growth potential. And also, if you still remember, we said that financing comes in the form of private equity and as a form of expertise. Financing comes in the form of private equity and is a form of expertise. Is a form of expertise. Okay, right, great tops. So now let's move on to the next question. If we check the next question, we have 2.6, and this 2.6 it reads as follow. Discuss the unemployment insurance fund as a type of compulsory insurance. So remember, guys, here this fund provides benefits to workers who have been working and are now unemployed for reasons such as retrenchment. So also no tax is payable on unemployment benefits. Also the employer and the employee are actually contributing 1% each. So we are saying that this fund provides benefits. This fund provides benefits workers who have been working and are now unemployed. For reasons such as retrenchment. Also, we said that the employer and employee each contributes 1%. So now also said that no tax is payable on unemployment benefits. No tax is payable on unemployment benefits. Okay, right click tops. So now we are saying that under this question, so this fund, which is unemployment insurance fund or UIF, provides benefits to workers who have been working and are now unemployed for reasons such as retrenchment. And also the employer and the employee each contributes 1%. So now as well that no tax is payable on unemployment benefits. Okay, right, great tops. So now let's move on to the next question. So the next question, we have question 2.7. So question 2.7, it reads as follows. Advise businesses on how division of profits could contribute to the success or failure of a public company. So under this public company, profits are distributed between the shareholders as dividends based on their shares or based on their shares holding. Also, the fixed tax rate and tax allowances are actually very helpful in this regard. Also, limited liability supports usable calculated risk. So we are saying that number one, profits are distributed profits are distributed between the shareholders as a dividend. So what are dividends? When we talk of dividends, we refer to the reward that is actually being given to the investors at the end of the trading period, or at the end of the financial period, or at the end of the accounting period. Okay, right. So now another aspect, we said that the fixed tax rate and tax allowances are very helpful. The fixed tax rate and tax allowance are helpful. So the last one, limited liability supports useful calculated risk. Okay, so now we're actually saying that profits are distributed between the shareholders as a dividend. And I did explain to you what is the meaning of this dividend. Also, the fixed tax rate and tax allowances are very, very crucial in this regard. Also, limited liability supports our useful calculated risk. Okay, right, grade 12. Now we are done with this question. Let's move on to the next question, which is question 3. And now this question reads as follows. 3.1, name any two problem-solving steps. So when you are dealing with a problem, or whenever you are solving a problem, make sure that you first identify a problem, know where a problem emanates. So after identification of a problem, now you can define a problem. Now, after you have now defined a problem, come up with a strategy, formulate a strategy. How are you going to solve that problem? So now formulate a strategy. Then after formulation of the strategy, when you formulate the strategy, make sure that each and every step that you are going to take, you plan it, meaning you write it down. You can actually write it inside your diary, or you can actually write it down inside your laptop, inside your computer, inside your cell phone or tablet. So now what you're actually saying is that after you have formulated your strategy, make sure that you implement, put it in action. Don't just put it inside your diary, but now there's nothing taking place in action. So now we're saying that here you must first identify a problem. Identify a problem. So now after identifying a problem, then you must define this problem, define a problem. Define a problem. So now after you have defined the problem, now formulate a strategy. Formulate a strategy. What are you going to do? A strategy. So now after you have formulated your strategy, now implement whatsoever you have evaluated. Implement your strategy. Right. So now let's move on to 3.2. 3.2 reads as follows. Outline the causes of conflict in the workplace. So when you talk of the conflict, we refer to what? We refer to mismatch in terms of understanding, or when it comes to raising the ideas at the workplace. So now at the workplace, sometimes you find that there is poor communication as well. If there is poor communication, then that is going to cause a conflict. And also, if there is a difference in opinions, that is also going to cause a conflict, as well as unclear responsibilities. If you don't know, your responsibilities, you don't know your line of boundaries where you must perform your duties, then in the same manner, it's going to create a barrier, but it's going to create a boundary between between the employer and the employee. So now we are saying that here, poor communication can be one of the causes. We have poor communication. We have poor communication. Then we also have we also have unclear. We have unclear responsibilities. And then we also have different opinions. Okay, right click tops. So now let's move on to the next question. So the next question that we have 3.3, and 3.3, it reads as follows. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Zama Technologies. So Zama Technologies recognize diversity issues to achieve an inclusive workforce. So now, when you talk of inclusive, it means that no one is actually being sanctioned. Everyone is welcome. So now they encourage younger employees to respect older employees and to learn from them. So ZT also built ramps for wheelchairs at the entrance of their office. It means that there are people already who are disabled and they are working for this company. And also this company, it encourages small people or young people to respect old employees. So it means as well age is being taken into account. So now, Kitofs, let's check out. This is our sentence 1, and then this is our sentence 2, and then lastly, this is our sentence 3. So now the question says, identify 2 diversity issues addressed by ZT and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So now, if you check when the question says identify, it means that you should go straight to a given set of scenario and your answer lies there. There's no need for you to now crack your head. Where will I get the answer? Or where am I going to get the answer? Okay, right click tops. So now here the diversity issue that has been addressed is the issue of age and the issue of disability. So now when the question says modified, so it means you must quote from the scenario. And when you quote, great tops, you know very well that quoting involves you picking the whole sentence. You take the full sentence. So it means in this regard, we are going to quote for age sentence 2, and then for the disability sentence 3. So when you are not going to say sentence 2 and sentence 3, you are going to write the whole sentence the way it is. It means that for age, you are going to say they encourage younger employees to respect older employees as to learn from them. And then also for sentence 3, it means you are going to say ZT also build ramps for wheelchairs at the entrance of their office. Okay, right, great tops. So now let's move on to the next question. So the next question that we are faced with 3.4. And this 3.4 reads as follows. Explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. Explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. So now let's check how best we can explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. Remember, when you talk of creative thinking, here we want you to think outside the box. We don't want you to be conventional. It should always be non-conventional, meaning you should always apply originality. Come up with your own approach. Don't copy other people's approach. Okay, right. So now the question says, explain the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. So now if we check the allocation of marks, we have 6 marks. So what is the expectation? The expectation is to come up with 3 points. Okay, right click 12. So now the moment the business applies creative thinking, or allows creative thinking. It means that complex business problems may be easily solved. So also this improves motivation amongst staff members. So the moment staff members are now motivated, then unique solutions are going to be generated. So, okay, right. So now we're saying that here, unique solutions are generated. Also, we said that complex business problems may be solved. And then lastly, we said that this improves motivation amongst staff members. Okay, right. So now, Kritos, let's move on to the next question. Next question, we have 3.5. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Esteemed hotels. So now, EH hotels provide transport for employees who work unusually long hours. So they pay what? They pay their fare bonuses to employees as acknowledgement of their hard work and commitment. Also, EH also implements ethically correct business decisions so as to avoid polluting the environment. Okay, right. Then let's check the first question. The first question says, which is 3.51, code two ways in which EH contributed time and effort in improving the well-being of employees from the scenario above. Okay, right, Kritos. So now if we check here, this is our sentence 1, this is our sentence 2, and this is our sentence 3. So when the question says code, remember the expectation is to write the sentence the way it is. You don't add, you don't subtract. Just write the full sentence here. Okay, right. So now the appropriate answer here is going to be what? Is going to be sentence 1 and sentence 2. So it means sentence 1, it says EH provide transport for employees who work usually long hours. Also, sentence 2 states they pay fair bonuses to employees as acknowledgement of their hard work and commitment. Okay, right, Kritos. Now let's move on to the next question. So the next question that we are faced with 3.5.2, and 3.5.2 says describe other ways in which businesses will contribute time and effort in improving the well-being of the employees. So now how can the business do that? The business should introduce the concept of mindfulness to the employees. Also, this is going to encourage staff to cycle to work. And also they should actually realize the importance of work-life balance. Because if you check, most of the businesses, they fail to realize the importance of work-life balance. Okay, right, I'll come again. I'm saying that the business should introduce the concept of mindfulness to the employees. And then the second one, the business should encourage staff to do a cycle to work. And also, the business should realize the importance of work-life balance. Okay, right, Kritos. So now we're saying that here, introduce the concept of mindfulness to the employee. Okay, right? Then we also said that they should always encourage staff members to do circle work. And then the last but not the least, the business should realize the importance of work-life balance. Okay, right, Kritos. Now let's move on to the next question. The next question that we have 3.6 and 3.6 reads as follows: explain how businesses can apply the following King's Code principle for good corporate governance as to improve ethical businesses conduct. If you still remember, this King's Code principle, normally it is applicable under ethics and professionalism. So now, it does pen out only transparency and accountability. When we talk of transparency, we mean that the business should always be clear on the goals that they want to achieve. And also, I know most businesses, they fail to be transparent. They don't disclose their balance sheet at the end of each and every trading period or accounting period. So of which, according to King's Code, it is advisable for each and every business to disclose the balance sheet. You find that some businesses, when it comes to the payment of bonuses to the employees at the end of the accounting period, they say the business doesn't have money. When in actual fact, they are lying. But if they are transparent, they did issue out the balance sheet copy to each and every staff member. Then the staff members are not going to have any problem with that. That's the transparency that you are referring to. Also, when it comes to accountability is when a business takes charge of its actions. Whatsoever action that has been taken by the business shouldn't deny. So it means the business should always take charge of whatsoever they do. So now it means if the business sold expired stuff or expired product to customers, so now the customers returns those defaulted or maybe non-fresh products, then the business shouldn't deny. They must respect that. Okay, right. So now under transparency, we are going to start with transparency. So that we are saying that under transparency, decisions must be clear to all stakeholders. Meaning, when we talk of the stakeholders, we refer to each and every person who forms part of that business. We refer to the owner of the business, whether the owner of the business is there in the business on a daily basis. That owner should be equipped with whatsoever decision that is taking place. Also, we refer to all staff members, whether you are on the managerial level, whether you are the subordinates, but whatsoever decision that is being taken there should be clear to you. Also, the customers form part of this. They are part of the stakeholders. Also, the customers, they should have clear path on what to do. The business should be transparent to them. They shouldn't just the next day when they wake up then start increasing the prices that are actually being charged on goods and services. So they must first put a notice somewhere that starting from this date, we are going to increase the prices of our goods and services due to a certain reason. Okay, right. So now also we are saying that staffing and other processes should be open and always transparent. Okay, right. So now here we said that decisions Decisions must be clear to all stakeholders. And also, we said that staffing and other processes should be open and transparent. Okay, right. So now coming on to accountability, you said that businesses should be responsible for their actions. And also, there must be regular communication between management and stakeholders. Businesses should be responsible businesses should be responsible for their actions. And also, you said that there must be a regular communication, must be a regular communication, must be a regular communication between management and stakeholders. Okay, right. So now moving on to the next question. Next question, we have 3.7, and 3.7, it does read as follow. Recommend or suggest ways in which businesses could deal with pricing of goods in rural areas as a type of unethical business practices. So what I can actually tell you, Christoph, is that businesses in rural areas should always charge market-related prices for their goods and services, so as to avoid unethical business practices to attract customers' loyalty. Also, they must work together with suppliers so as to share delivery costs to remote rural areas. Saying that here, businesses must charge market-related prices for their goods and services. And also, we said that the moment they do that, they'll be avoiding unethical business, unethical business practices, to attract customer loyalty. Also, we said that businesses should work together with the suppliers to share delivery costs to remote rural areas. Okay, right, click 12. So now we are done with this question. Let's move on to the next question, which is question 4. And then this question, it does contain miscellaneous topics, meaning there are different or there are various topics under this question. So now the first question, which is 4.1, it reads as follows. State any two types of preference shares. So if you still remember, we have cumulative preference shares and non-cumulative preference shares, and also we have what? We have redeemable preference shares and non-redeemable preference shares. So here we are saying that we have cumulative preference shares and non-cumulative preference shares. Okay, right. So now remember, when you talk of preference shares or shares, when you talk of shares is when an investor is owning part of the business ownership. That is shares. When you talk of shares, so we have different types of these shares. We have ordinary shares and preference shares. So ordinary shares or ordinary shareholding, there are those investors who have invested less amount of money. So whenever the business is having any difficulty, they don't get their reward or their dividends. Preference shares or preference shareholding will refer to those investors who have invested huge sums of money in the business. And these ones, their dividends are fixed regardless whether the business is making profit or not. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is 4.2. And 4.2 reads as follows: outline the advantages of a non-profit company. So now when we talk of what the advantages is that this can get tax exemption, and also it can receive donations. Also, staff unified can actually be or having a common goal. Okay, we are saying that can get tax exemption also can receive donations. So also we said staff unified by common goals. Staff unified by common goal. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is 4.3. So 4.3, it reads as follows. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. So now we have Adonis Fashion. So the management of Adonis Fashion wants to ensure their stock against the fire, changes in fashion and theft. So they conducted research on insurable risks and understand the importance of insurance. So now the question says, which is 4.3.1, name two insurable risks in the scenario above. So now if we check, we have what we have theft and as well as fire. So now meaning the business has to they have to pay the insurance premium for this two, which is theft and fire. Okay, now let's move on to the next question here, 4.3.2. Explain the advantages of insurance for businesses. What are the importance of these insurances to businesses? So normally, these insurances transfer the risk from the insured to an insurance company. Also protect businesses against dishonest employees, and also protect businesses against losses due to death of a debtor. Okay, right. So now we're saying that grade 12 here, transfer the risk from the insured to an insurance company. Okay, right. And also said that protects businesses against dishonest employees. Also, it said that protects businesses against losses due to death of a debtor. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 4.4. So 4.4 reads as follow. Advise businesses on the functions of the Johannesburg Security Exchange. So now, when you talk of Johannesburg Security Exchange, you talk of the platform where shares can be bought and sold. So now, one of the functions can be addresses primary capital to other businesses, also provides protection for investors. It also encourages short-term investment instead of long-term investment. So now we're saying that raises primary capital, also provides protection for investors. Lastly, said encourages short-term investment. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question we have what? The next question we have 4.5 under business roles. So now 4.5 reads as follows. Outline the economic rights of employees in the workplace. One of the rights is that these employees, they have reasonable limitations of working hours, also safe and healthy working conditions. So we are saying that reasonable, limitations, reasonable limitations, of working hours. And also we have safe, and healthy working conditions. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question, grade 12. We have 4.6. Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follow. Here's an enterprise, which is JE. So JE is experiencing a decrease in sales in one of their product lines. So JE requested their employees to generate ideas silently on their own before sharing them with others. Because of that, on their own, this calls for nominal. So identify the problem-solving technique applied by J in the scenario above. Remember, we have David technique, we have force field analysis, we also have brainstorming, and as well as nominal group technique. So the appropriate answer here is going to be nominal group technique. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question that we have a 4.6.1. It reads as follows: explain other ways in which nominal group technique can apply or can be applied as the problem-solving technique. Okay, right. So now this I can actually collect the ratings and calculate total points. Also encourage employees to ask clarity-seeking questions. Okay, right. Then collect the ratings and calculate total points. Also encourage employees ask clarity seeking questions. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 4.7 grade 12. So our 4.7 it reads as follow. It reads as follow: discuss the impact of our corporate social responsibility on communities. So now let's check let's check the impact of this. What you can actually say is that provision of bursaries encourages our communities to actually improve their skills. Also, socioeconomic issues are attended to, which will improve the welfare of the community. Right? So we're saying that provision of bursaries encourage communities to improve their level of skills. Also, we said that socioeconomic issues are attended to which will improve the welfare of the community. Okay, right. So now we're saying that the socioeconomic issues are attended to, which will improve the welfare of the community. Also, the provision of bursaries encourages communities to improve more on their level of skills. Right. So now let's move on to the next question, which is 4.8. So now let's check what 4.8 has in store for us. Okay, right. So now 4.8, let's check what it has in store for us. Advise businesses on the roles of health and safety representatives in protecting the workplace environment. So now, what is important? Those representatives should review effectiveness of health and safety measures. Also, after doing so, they must be in the position to identify potential hazards and measure incidents. Okay, right. We are saying that they must review effectiveness of health and safety measures. And also, we are saying that they should identify potential hazards and measure incidents. Okay, right, Christophs. We are done with our section B. Now let's move on to section C. Remember, section C, you are actually given what you're actually given two questions. Expectation is to choose only one. So now let's check question 5. So question 5, it reads as follows. Remember here, we are now dealing with an essay. It reads as follows. A well-designed multimedia presentation is necessary for communicating with business stakeholders. So presenters must know the vectors that must be considered while presenting to ensure a successful presentation. Some presenters use what we call handouts and flip charts to enhance the quality of their presentations. Handling feedback in a non-aggressive and professional manner is so important for concluding a presentation. So write an essay on presentation and data response in which you include the following aspect. So grade 12, if you still remember, I always tell you that whenever you are dealing with the essay under business studies, these 4 bullets, they are the ones who are going to form the body part of your essay. What you must do, you must only introduce your concept, meaning you are going to have introduction, and also you are going to have your conclusion. So now on the essay, on your body part, you should have the 4 subheadings, 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that these are going to be your subheadings. So in this regard here, what we are going to do, we are going to explain the meaning of what we are going to explain the meaning of presentation. And also grade 12, Here you should be very, very, very clear here. Here what you must know. Here what you must know is that you should always make sure that you understand what should be done. That's what you must always do. So okay, right. So now let's check this question. So now the question says write essay on presentation and data response in which you introduce the following. So what you are going to do, we are going to start with our introduction. So remember, under introduction, you are expected to come up with 2 bullets, of which 1 bullet carries 1 mark, or you can just write 1 giant bullet that contains 2 points. And also on your conclusion, remember, under business studies, it's either you go big or go back home, because you only score 2 full marks instead of 1 mark. You are not given 1 mark. It's either you get 2 marks or 0. So now let's check how we are going to write our introduction. So now we are going to say that when we talk of the presentation is the act of communicating information or data to an audience in an organization. Now come again, when you talk of the presentation, you refer to act of communicating information or data to an audience in an organization. Okay, right. So now let's move on to our body part. So now when we move on to our body part, it means that all of these 4 points, they are the ones that are going to form our body. So now here on the body part, we are going to discuss issues that are pertaining to designing the multimedia. So whenever you are designing a multimedia, first of all, what you must do, you should always select the background. Select the background. The background should always be selected. Also, start with headings. Start your presentation with headings, and also use legible font and font size, meaning that your font should be a readable font, and also there should be a structure. Or the way you structure information, it should be in a logical sequence, meaning information should be structured in a logical sequence. Also use pictures to make it very interesting to your audience, because the moment it contains pictures, it means that you are going to make sure that your audience are enjoying your presentation. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the vectors that should be considered while you are doing your presentation. So now the vectors that you should always be considered whenever you are doing your presentation as follows. So you must rehearse to ensure a confident presentation. Consider the time frame for presentation. Find out about the venue for also the presentation. So now, whenever you are doing your presentation, make sure that you face the panel or the audience. Face the audience whenever you are dealing with your presentation. Don't just start looking or setting aslam on the ground. Don't set aslam on the ground. Face your audience, so that the moment you are facing them, it is going to make it easy for them to even understand the type of presentation that you are actually undertaking. Okay, right. So now let's also check the impact of the visual aids given. So now we are going to check the impact of the handouts, also the impact of the flip chart. Remember, when the question says give the impact, the expectation is either to give the positive effect or the negative effect. So now I'll start with the handout. So now handout, they are so meaningful, or meaningful handouts may be handed out at the start of the presentation to attract attention. So remember, guys, whenever you are the audience, so now you are present for that presentation, and you have the handout, it is very easy for you to integrate to whatsoever information that is actually being delivered by the presenter, unlike when you don't have the handout. So that is why we are saying that meaningful handouts should or must always be handed out at the start of the presentation to your audience so as to attract attention. Okay, right. So now let's check our flip chart. So now under this flip charts, we can actually say that this can mainly used for a small audience to note down some short notes. So now flip charts, I know most of you creatives, the flip chart. So this mainly used for a small audience to note down some short notes. So now whenever you have a small audience, then it is actually advisable to always use the flip chart as a part of a visual aid. Okay, right, grade 12s. Now let's move on to what the suggestion. You have to suggest ways in which presenters can handle the feedback in a manner that is not fighting or aggressive. Okay, right. So now if we want the presenter to handle the presentation without actually being rude towards whoever is asking a question, they should always be polite when responding to questions, meaning they should respond to questions, not a person. They shouldn't shake or whosoever asks the question. And then they say that, okay, since this question has been asked by whosoever, now this is how I'm going to answer the question. No, what they must do, they must make sure that they answer strictly a question, not a person. And also they must keep answers short and to the point, meaning there should be a precision here. Answers should be precise, meaning errors should be at a minimal. Okay, right. So now also we can say that they should ensure each question is understood before responding. He must understand the question that has been asked before they open up their mouths. And also they should always stress, they should always address the question and not the person, as I said it. They shouldn't address the person, but a question. Okay, right. So now at this juncture now, we have come to our conclusion. So the way we conclude, guys, as I did say earlier or in previous lessons, that whenever you do your conclusion under business studies, is either you go big or you go home. Meaning under conclusion, you are given 2 marks, or 2 marks is allocated for you to conclude your discussion. So now if these 2 marks, you don't take all of it, then you are not even going to be given 1, but you're going to be given 0. Okay, right. So now let's check how best we can conclude our essay. Presenters should always be prepared to update or keep the information relevant, and also reflect on any problem or criticism as to avoid it in future presentation. That is how I conclude. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the last question. So now the last question that we have question 6. So question 6 in the same manner, guys. Remember I told you this, all of this, they form your what? They form your body. This is your body. But when you structure your essay, you don't write a word body. So you also have to indicate your introduction and as well as your conclusion. Okay, right. So remember, conclusion carries 2 marks, and also here we have 2 marks for your introduction. So now remember, under introduction, you must explain a concept and study. So that's what you must explain. So now, okay, right, grade 12s. So now let's check team performance. So when we talk of a word team, team we refer to a group of people who are working towards achieving the same common or the same set goal. That is a team performance. They actually perform different responsibilities or roles, but at the end of the day, the major aim is to achieve the same goal. The major aim is to meet the same objectives, or the major aim is to attain whatsoever set aims for that particular business. Okay, right. So now, Kritovs, we are actually now landing on what? We are now landing on the difference between the grievance and the conflict. So now this one, it should be what? It should be noted, grade 12. I know most of you guys, you don't know how to differentiate the grievance and what and a conflict. So this one is a complaint. So now here is when you lay your complaint here, when you have a complaint. But here we have what? We have a clash. So it can be a clash of ideas and clash of other aspects, but in line with whatsoever roles that one of you guys you have been given to execute. Okay, right, Kritovs. So now let's check how we can give the difference between the grievance and a conflict. So now when we talk of the word grievance is a formal complaint laid by an employee when he or she feels that she or he has been ill-treated by the employer. I'll come again. When we talk of the grievance, we refer to a formal complaint laid by an employee when he or she feels that he or she has been ill-treated by the employer. That is a grievance. When you raise your grievance, you don't fight. You raise it in a formal manner. Don't go there shouting even your boss, even saying swearing words. No, it shouldn't be like that. So now let's move on to the next word aspect, which is our conflict. So now when we talk of this conflict, as I said, is a clash. So here we refer to disagreement or a clash of opinions in the workplace. Whensoever you have a disagreement or a clash of opinions at the workplace, we call that what do you call a conflict. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next bulletin or next bullet, where we have to explain the correct measure to deal with grievance at the workplace. How best are you going to deal with grievance at the workplace? To deal with grievance at the workplace, elaborate on the meaning of grievance. What is this grievance? Elaborate on it so that your employer can have a clear path or can have the basis of what you are saying. What is your problem? What is your complaint? That's what you're actually saying when you say that explain or elaborate on the meaning of a grievance. So now also we should actually check what the correct measures or procedures to deal with grievance in the workplace. Also, the correct procedures as well to deal with this grievance in the workplace should be what taken into account. Okay, right, Kritovs. Now let's move on to another bullet where we have to discuss the storming as well as the naming stages of team development. Remember, in a business, we are working for one business. This one business has one dream. And this one business has different objectives. But one of the major objectives of starting a business is to make profit. Other measures, they're just control objectives or they're just control aims. But the major aim of starting a business is to make profit, nothing else. Okay, right. So now let's check on the issue of storming. Storming, this is a stage, or in this stage, it is necessary for the growth of the team. Meaning here is where now the clash is now here. Now you try to understand one another. The moment you are in this step and the moment you are actually done or you understand this stage, it means that now it is going to be necessary for the growth of the team. You are going to know how well you must integrate with one another. You are going to know how best you can approach this kind of person who possesses this particular type of personal attitude. Either be a complainer, either be an expert, either be someone who talks too much. In that regard, you are going to be able to relate well. So now also still under storming, we are saying that some team members tolerate each other so that they can survive this stage. So at this stage, it's not easy. There are different set of storms. So now for all the employees to integrate or understand one another, it is going to be a challenge. So that is why we are actually saying that some team members under this stage tolerate each other so as to survive this stage. Okay, right. So now let's move on to what we call what norming stage. So now let's check norming stage. So under norming stage here, roles and responsibilities are clear and accepted. Why? Because we have passed that stage where it was very difficult now to integrate with one another, because now it is our first time to come and work together. I don't even know whether you're a complainer. I don't even know whether you are an expert. You were not, almost in each and every task that you execute, you expect to be right. So now also we can actually say that conflict may occur, but commitment and unity are very strong. Under norming stage, yes, conflict may occur, but commitment and unity, they are very, very powerful or very strong. Okay, right, Christoph. So now let's actually check the last bullet, where you are actually forced to advise businesses on the importance of a team dynamic theory. So now let's check how you can best advise this. So the impact creativity. The moment a business follows team dynamic theories, there is going to be an impact on creativity, productivity, and effectiveness, meaning they impact creativity, productivity, and effectiveness in a positive manner. Right. So now let's check another aspect. So also this can lead to better work outcomes. So also the moment there are better work outcomes, that is the indication that there is customer satisfaction and improved bottom lines. I'll come again. This will actually lead to better work outcomes or working outcomes, of which the moment there is better working or work outcomes, then customer satisfaction and improved bottom line will actually occur. Okay, right, Christoph. So now let's check now how best we can conclude our essay. So we can actually say that quality is measured through physical product or statistical output of process or service of the users and buyers of a goods or a service. I'll come again. Quality is measured through physical product or satisfactory output of processes or service of the users or buyers of goods or services. Okay, great talks. At this angle, I would love to say thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed my lesson. I hope that we are still going to meet even in future. Thank you very much. Shalom. Okay, right, great talks. Today we are going to discuss business studies, paper 2. So the paper was written yesterday afternoon. Okay, right. So now, great talks. If you still remember, I always tell you the first thing that you should always pay attention to before you can actually start your examination. You must go through the set of instructions and information given. Because the moment you go through the set of instructions and information given, then you will definitely score marks, and you will avoid the chances of being penalized unnecessarily. Okay, right. So now, if you still remember the structure of business studies paper, it has 3 sections, section A, section B, and section C. So of which section A is considered to be compulsory, and it carries 30 marks. So also we have section B. Under section B, you are actually given 3 questions, and the expectation is to answer 2 questions, of which 1 question carries 40 marks. So now under this section, you are going to work under 80 marks. So now the last section, we have section C, and then this section C consists of 2 questions, and the expectation is to choose only 1 question, and of which 1 question carries 40 marks. So now if you add the marks for section A and the marks for section B and the marks for section C, then they sum up to 150. Remember, section A, we have 30 marks, section B, we have 80 marks, and then section C, we have 40 marks. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, one of the important what instructions and information is number 2, where you are expected to choose questions wisely in section B, and also you are advised to start each and every new question on a new page. Okay, right. So now let's check the first question under section A. And remember, grade 12, you should always bear in mind that section A is always compulsory. Okay, right. So now 1.1.1 reads as follows. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter. An example is given there inside the bracket where you have A to D next to the question numbers. Also, you are given the guidelines there, 1.1.1 to 1.1.5 in a given answer book. So a typical example as well is given where you actually shown how you must select the options of your choice. So now if you check, we have 1.1.6, and the appropriate option for this question is D. So now also grade 12, remember, I always advise you guys to apply elimination method. So now when you apply this elimination method, when you are approaching choice or multiple choice questions, you are grading the chances of survival or broader chances of survival for yourself. So now, okay, grade 12. So now you should go through all the set of options given, and then you create a picture from those given set of options. Don't just jump to the option that you think this one is appropriate. Why? Because most of these options, they are pretty close or similar to one another. So that is why you are always advised to apply this elimination strategy or technique. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.1. 1.1.1 reads as follows. Mantla applied the dash leadership theory when he encouraged his team to be creative when dealing with drastic changes in a dynamic work environment. Okay, right. So now, as I said earlier, that you should compare, or you should make sure that you match all what are the given options. So now, if we check here, the appropriate answer is going to be what is going to be C, because C is the one that allows for a dynamic or some changes. So that is why we're actually saying that transformational leadership theory will be the appropriate answer for this question. Okay, right. So now let's check 1.1.2. 1.1.2 reads as follows. The director of a dash company jointly and severally responsible for the debts of the business. So now this one is somehow sort of tricky, because the option that is B, yes, it is the appropriate answer. But also, if you were having the partnership on the list of the options, so partnership was going to be the appropriate answer than personal liability. Okay, right. So now let's move on to 1.1.3. 1.1.3 reads as follows. The principal amount remains the same for the duration of the investment period when calculating dash yen. So now remember here the interest that you are going to pay towards to pay attention towards is simple interest and compound interest. But now simple interest, that's where now the principal amount appears almost under each and every period or duration. So it means the appropriate answer in this regard is going to be A. While this one of a compound for the second year, yes, the principal amount now is going to be combined with whatsoever interest for the first period. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's check 1.1.4. 1.1.4 reads as follows. Employees of Ntagwe Trading used the internet facilities of the business after working hours without permission. So now this refers to Dash as a type of unprofessional business practices. So now, since this Ntsago or this employees from this particular business, they're actually utilizing the company resources after working hours without being granted a consent to do so. So in that regard, it means that the appropriate answer is going to be D, of unauthorized use of work funds and resources. So now this is going to be our appropriate answer. Okay, right click 12. So now let's check what the last question, which is 1.1.5. 1.1.5 reads as follow. Businesses develop counseling programs and train counselors as a strategy to deal with this as a socio-economic issue. So in this regard, the appropriate answer is going to be B. Okay, right, 12. Now let's move on to the next question. Next question, we have 1.2, and then 1.2 reads as follow. Complete different statements by using the words provided in the list below. Write only words next to the question number. An example is given there as a guideline, 1.2.1 to 1.2.5 in a provided answerable. So now, you know, creators, what I always advise you is to go through each and every concept inside that grade. Because now, the moment you go through each and every point inside the grid, that's when now you will be in the position to know which perfect option or which appropriate option you should always go for, or which appropriate concept you should always go for. So now let's check the first question, which is 1.2.1. It reads as follows. The average clause is applied when assets are dash to determine the amount that will be paid to the insured. If you still remember, the average clause caters for underinsured and overinsured. So, but the fact that there should be an amount to be paid to the insured, so that it means that this particular what clause it caters for what? It caters for underinsured. It means that now what the good or the business has been underinsured. So meaning here our appropriate answer is going to be what is going to be, sorry, is going to be underinsured. Underinsured. Okay, right. So now let's move on to the next question. We have 1.2.2. The dash as a form of ownership has no legal personality, and it does lack continuity. So that is nothing but what we call partnership. Okay, right, grade 12. Now let's move on to 1.2.3. Views Enterprises focuses on dash as a triple bottom line element, but participating in projects aimed at uplifting the community. So it means that now this caters for social, because social is one of the bottom line elements. We have social, we have profit, as well as people. So now it means here we have what we have people as the appropriate answer. Okay, right, grade 12. Let's move on to the next question. We have 1.2.4. So it reads as follows. A manager considers various alternatives before selecting the best one. So this is known as what we call decision making. This is decision making. Okay, right, grade 12. So now Tim, the supervisor, is firm and assertive when dealing with an dash as a type of difficult personality. So now to deal with this assertive, in order for you to be assertive, so you can only be assertive when you open up, or also you try to be in a low profile. So that kind of personality, when you are dealing with it, is called what? Is called a complainer. To deal with a complainer, shout as well when you are dealing with complainer. Make sure that you always keep a low profile. Okay, right, grade 12. So now let's move on to the next question. The next question, we have 1.3. So 1.3, it does read as follows. Choose a description from column B. So that matches with a term, a concept in column A. So write only the letter A to J next to the question numbers. An example is given there, 1.3.1 to 1.3.5 in the answer book provided. So a typical example is given there is 1.3.6, and the matching there or the option there is K. Okay, right. So now, grade 12, in this regard, you are advised to always go through column A, create a picture. For that matter, create a bigger picture of the concept that you have learned. Also, remember, I always advise you not to rely on what educators' lesson notes. Always make sure that you undertake further research after